Hello my friends, welcome back to the channel. I've been away for a while on vacation. If you've noticed, I'm all tanned. A lovely vacation away with my family for the last week or so. I'm back. I'm eager to get painting again. I've missed the brush. I have missed my brush, so I'm eager to get painting again. I hope you're all keeping very well out there, and I hope you're all enjoying your painting and creating beautiful artworks. This week I am going to try something a little challenging. You might enjoy this. A little bit of a challenge. It may be a little bit more on the complicated side for the beginners, but I think certainly the amateurs and the advanced artists will enjoy something like this. But even if you're a beginner, you may still learn a few things about certain aspects and certain techniques. So there's going to be something in this for everyone. I will be doing some nice simple subjects as well as some real detailed work as well. So it's something for everyone, I think, a nice broad kind of a learning experience. So I have a 16 by 20 canvas upright, primed once. It's a canvas board, a cheap canvas board, okay, nothing fancy. I just bought a cheap canvas board. I primed it once with a water-based undercoat, a white household undercoat. Thin it with water, make it nice and thin, one coat, and let it dry. That's all you need. So I'm going to be painting today the Grand Canyon. So for all of you out there who are eager to paint the Grand Canyon in detail, this is one for you. I got the reference photograph from Facebook, Reference Photographs for Artists it's called. Fantastic page, everything in there, lots of different subjects, and lots that you can choose from, and there's always something that will catch your eye. So thank you so much to all of you guys out there as well who are posting all of these pictures for us to paint. So the Grand Canyon, nice big cliffs coming up and lovely reflections down at the bottom. I will try and simplify it a little bit as I go, but I do want to create a really nice painting, an in-depth tutorial, so maybe 2 parts to this. Maybe 3, who knows, let's see how we go. But stay tuned if you want to see this. This will be one for the books, I think. This will be a good one. So grab your stuff if you want to follow me along. And again, thank you so much for all my patrons out there. I see a lot of people asking about some of the clips I'm putting up online of short clips from paintings. A lot of those are over on Patreon. If you want to go and get the full tutorial, just go over there and take a look and see what you think, all right? And I appreciate your support. So let's go without further ado into some painting. Follow me along, don't go anywhere, I'll be right back. Okay my friends, here we go. I don't know if you can see this on the canvas, but I did a very loose sketch of the photograph. Now there's a photograph. Okay, I know it looks very, very complicated, doesn't it? There's a lot going on. You've cliffs, you've distant hills, you've water, reflections, you've lights and darks. It looks very complicated, but I'm going to simplify this for you. Help you learn how to simplify a very complicated scene and just work on sections at a time. I think that's the best way forward with a painting like this. So look, let's try it. It may be out of your reach for some people, but I think if you just follow these steps and just take your time, you'll have no problem creating a beautiful masterpiece. And regardless of what it looks like, it's still a masterpiece in its own right. So don't beat yourself up if you can't do this as I'm doing it, okay? I'm used to doing these types of scenes. I like a challenge as well, and this may be a challenge. It's not going to be exactly the same, but it's going to hopefully turn out a nice painting. So look, I'll tell you what colours I have. I have titanium white, burnt sienna, naples yellow, cadmium red, cadmium yellow, lamp black, magenta, phaylo blue and burnt umber. A nice mix of colours, just to give us plenty of choice. We may not use all of these in part 1, but just to have them there, all right? I have some thinners with some linseed oil in it, little thinners with linseed oil, and my canvas is just primed once, as I was saying earlier. One coat of primer. I'm taking a large brush. Let's start with the sky anyway, look. We have a nice bright blue sky with a couple of clouds. Let's keep it nice and simple. I'll dampen my brush, just make it nice and damp. Take some white, nice dollop of white there, and let's take a touch of phaylo blue as well. Give this a nice rich blue sky, yes? A nice colourful painting. this week. Nice and colourful, lots of different colours, lots of different shapes, lights and dark, so a lot to learn. You will learn a lot from a painting like this. Even if it's one or two little hints and tips, then that's fine. Then I don't mind. That's absolutely great. I'm just going to fill in my sky. Now, again, if I'm having difficulty with the sketching, I know I'm certainly not great at sketching. I just generally put in a couple of outlines, very rough outlines, because I do anyway paint over some of the lines with the paint, you see. So it doesn't really matter if you don't get the sketching just right. We will be painting over a lot of these lines anyway. So let's go right down here, down to the bottom of those hills. I just softened a little touch of magenta into that colour there, look. So we have a nice soft pinky blue off in the distance. Okay, that's fine. I would normally come right down, but I think I leave it. I would normally cover the hills and paint them in afterwards, but I think I just leave those bottom hills. We'll paint those in a moment. So let's just soften this across here now and go up here and fill this blue sky in with a lovely blue colour. Again, titanium white and some phthalo blue. A nice rich blue, phthalo blue. And if you want, you could add a touch of magenta into that, just to help warm the blue ever so slightly. It just gives you that nice warm kind of a blue colour, the magenta. It's nice and warm, and it's a kind of a summery blue, if you know what I mean. Now I just keep adding touches of thinners into this because it gets quite thick, and the canvas is still a little kind of on the dry side. Even though I primed it once, it's still a little touch on the kind of dryish side. I could have oiled it with a little bit of linseed oil first. That would also help. And you can of course do that if you like. But I'm just going to pop this on now, just cover this canvas up. Cover this right up here. Let's get a bit more. Again, a bit of thinners, a bit of blue. And we come up here, fill this in. And I'm just going around my pencil lines very loosely, look. I'm going over the lines. Because we can make this our own later, all these shapes. You don't have to be exact. One thing I don't like doing with painting is trying to make something exactly the same as a photograph. I will try and make it as close as I can, but you know, it depends on kind of what angle you're taking the photograph from. Sometimes the shapes can move slightly as you move around in that place, so they're not going to be exactly the same everywhere. Do you understand what I mean? So we can afford a little bit of license and make this our own. Now, there we go. Simple blue sky in. Yes? Would you agree with that? I'm going to darken it slightly on top because I think it needs to be slightly darker on top. A little bit of phthalo, a little touch of magenta. Just paint, no thinners. Up here and darken this in. Let's make it nice and rich. I want the top to be a nice rich blue. Give us a bit of contrast on the sky. You'll notice as well in real life, looking at a landscape, the blue sky tends to get softer as it goes off in the distance. It gets kind of pale, doesn't it? So I always tend to keep my skies very light down towards the bottom. That gives you some distance in your painting and some perspective as well. And you don't have to get this completely smooth. Look, that's fine, that will do. Because I'm going to be putting some clouds into this. So we can have a bit of fun. Now again, a nice bit of blue again up there. I just keep adding the blue and darkening it as I need, bit by bit. There's no point in going on and putting a very, very dark blue on straight away because it's very difficult to get it off if you want to lighten it. You know, it just takes a bit longer to lighten it. So I generally tend to work on a sky light and then darken it bit by bit as you need. I think it just works better for me. I think it's much easier to control. Now let's just soften that across there. Okay, now that will do fine. I'm just going to dip this in some thinners and rub it on some tissue just to take all that rich blue off of that. I think the first 20 minutes of this video will be just filling in colours, okay? Filling in shapes. I'm going to get some clouds in here. I think I'll start off with a mauvey kind of a grey. Some phthalo blue, a little magenta, and a touch of burnt umber. Now plenty of magenta in this, okay? Plenty. So you start off with a very kind of a rich pinky blue, and then you add some burnt umber to it. That gives you this lovely sort of a kind of a mauvey greyish tone. A little bit of brown just tones it down a little bit. Now I'm just going to pop in a couple of shadows first. Now I go with that. They look a bit dark, but it's fine. Again, it's fine. We don't have to worry too much. I want to pop a little bit of shadow in for the clouds, just here and there. See, look, very loosely, very rough, very loose. Make this our own. Okay, come down here and let's just go across like that. I clean my brush again, and now it's time for the white. The trick with the white, well, it's not a trick. The thing with the white to remember is when you're putting on white, it's going to mix with these colours. So you're not going to have a perfectly pure white every time. So let me show you. As you put it on, you can see it starts to mix. And you end up then with nice kind of shades, different shades of soft whites and greys going through. And I'm just, look, dabbing. I'm just kind of swirling the brush around and moving that white around on the cloud. Scrape it, twist it, turn it, do all that kind of stuff with the cloud. Then clean your brush, give it a good dry, go back into your white again. And we can come down here and we can just pop a few whites on their own as well. Look, just dab, 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 dab. Scrape it along. We'll go up here, pop a few around. You see how loosely I'm doing this? I'm just allowing my brush to dance around up in the sky. You see, just dance. Leave the brush dance. Don't be too controlled with your brush. Okay, look, just pop it in, picking up a bit of shadow, pop it in down here, this and that. I'm going to stop at that. Then I'm going to take a very soft blender brush and just start softening very gently. I'm just sort of swishing the brush around in circles and I'm kind of flicking it like this. Generally softening this, I'm making it very random because a cloud needs to be random, doesn't it? They're never perfect. There's never perfect circles or anything like that in the cloud. It's very random. In other words, let the cloud go where it wants to go. And the same for your brush. Let your brush just go where it wants to go. And see what happens, look, just have a bit of fun. Very, very loosely. Now to add a bit of impact into this, I want a bit of impact in the sky. I'm just going to grab a palette knife like this, okay? Simple palette knife, any size or shape will do. Grab some white, and I'm just going to start flicking and dragging some white here and there. You see? Flick the palette knife, drag it to what you want, look. Creating nice texture up there in the sky. It's all about having fun for me, this type of painting. And just enjoying the process. You know, we're here to enjoy what we're doing and have a bit of fun. We're not here to be stressed out and worry about something not looking the same. I'm not worried if this looks completely different from the sky in the photograph. I don't care. I want to make this my own. That's the whole point of a painting, isn't it? Now, I'll stop at that and go back to my soft brush again. And again, let's do some flicking, look. Flick it around, give the clouds a bit of movement. Don't be shy. Don't be shy at all. Come on, have a bit of fun with this. Who said clouds have to be difficult, what? Who said that? Clouds don't have to be difficult. You can make clouds as difficult as you want to make them. If you want to sit here for 3 hours painting a cloud, you can. It's up to you. I like to keep it simple. That's fine. I'm happy with that. There. A nice sky done very loosely in 10 minutes. And realistically, I don't like spending longer than 10 or 15 minutes on a sky, unless it's a kind of a detailed sunset. But I like to just get a sky done and forget about it and move on. unless it's a focus point. If it's a sky like this, just have a bit of fun, because the focus is going to be on all of this here. Let's start putting in these hills in the distance. Now I don't know, should I zoom in slightly or should I not? Because they're very small and detailed. So look, I might try just zooming in ever so slightly, okay? I do apologise now about this. Maybe just a little for now. That might do. I'll take a small flat brush, okay? Something like that will do fine. Just dampen it, make sure it's damp and clean. And let's go for a nice soft purple. A bluey kind of a purple. I'm going to take this blue I have here, maybe chance a touch of cadmium red, some white. I think I go for a kind of a reddy blue to start with. You see this kind of it's almost like a mucky mauve. So cadmium red, a touch of blue, a little bit of white. I'm going to use this to just paint in my mountains completely, all right? So now, the ones in the distance, I think a touch more red. This is what I do as I'm going. I add little touches of colour just to get the colour right. And when you're happy enough with the colour, then just put it on. Let's go. You can see they kind of come out like this, don't they? And they come down. Isn't that right? Now, I hope I'm in the right area with all of this. So we have this big one coming down there, this one coming out. Yeah, I think we're in the right area with these hills. And you know what? It doesn't matter if we're not. Doesn't matter in the slightest. Let's just put these in. Okay, just like that. Take a bit of white then, maybe a bit of blue. And just pop this one in up here. You see, these are all very random shapes. Pop it in there just like that. And what I tend to do is, I kind of generally tend to soften these together. When they're off in the distance so far away, I just kind of allow them to soften in together. I think it just makes a much nicer effect, doesn't it? I might come down there with this one. I think this one comes right down here actually, doesn't it? You don't have to worry about putting in all the little edges and the cliffs and all of that into these. I would rather just keep these a nice little impression. A very gentle impression. That's all I want to achieve with these, you see. Just soften them together ever so slightly, look. That's fine. So this is going to be the dark area of those hills way off in the distance. So this is the shadowed side of them. You're going to have a very slight light then hitting some of these. Now I will take a slightly darker colour, maybe a touch of black and a touch of cadmium red. You can see I'm using minimum amounts of paint, tiny amounts of paint on my palette, look, just the tiniest amount. It's very dry, look, the tiniest little amount. And I might just pop a couple of darks in here and there just to suggest some shadows coming down. You know, not too much. You don't have to go crazy with this. I'm mixing some blue and some magenta, just a tiny bit of blue and magenta together, just to get some nice rich darky purple colours in there as well. Just a few. Down at the bottom kind of area in particular, you know. Just a few. That all helps give some depth to the cliffs in the distance. Now I'll stop at that and I'll take a small brush, a small pointy brush. You see this bit of dirt I have? I don't know if you can see this now. I have a little bit of paint. There we go. So a little pointy brush. I'm going to put some lights on these. And for the lights I'm going to use Naples yellow, some magenta and lots of white. These are kind of pinky. These kind of highlights where they're catching the sun off in the distance. They're pinky, but the Naples yellow makes it a warm pink. So I'm going for a kind of a nice bright, warm pink off in the distance. What I'll do is, on the left hand side of these, just simply go like that, look. They're just catching the light and they disappear down, you see? Just give it a few little wiggles. And you can see now how that instantly gives you a little bit of shape to the hills. So I prefer to put in all the darks first in one big area and then simply just go along afterwards and paint in your lights like this. And I'm kind of allowing the paint then to mix slightly as well as it comes down, you see? Creating those little lights in the hills off in the distance. Don't overthink any of this. If you start overthinking this, you get very frustrated because you're trying to, you know, when I was starting out, when I was painting as well as a beginner, I was trying to imagine every single little nook and cranny and every single light and shadow. And I was getting very frustrated because in my mind, it didn't look like a highlight, but when I stood back, it actually was. You could see it was. So I learned over time not to get too deep in my thoughts when putting on highlights like this. Just pop a couple of lines, and when you look back later at the painting, you'd see it actually does look like highlights. So don't overthink it. It's very easy to overthink this stage. All right. Now, more Naples yellow, more magenta. Nice warm colour. And I'm going to pop a few on here as well, look. A couple just catching the light at the back of that. Up there, coming down. You could even put one or two down here as well. Just for, it's just, let's say it's reflecting from those onto this slightly. You know, that sort of luminosity that you get sometimes on a hill. Little bit of that. Come on, why not? Then I'll take a touch of cadmium red with that mix. I have a kind of a pinky mix. I don't know if you can see that now, but it's a kind of a pinky mix, look. You see that colour? Pop a little warmth in there as it comes down. Already you can see we have created hills in the distance, haven't we? You know? And it doesn't have to be complicated. I'm just taking a bit of purple and I'm just going to refine some of these edges up here. Just give them a little bit of shadow, look. Picking out the edge just to make that show a little better. I think that's all I need for there. Down here is pretty much the same, the very same case. I'll zoom back ever so slightly because I feel you want to see me mixing, don't you? Okay, I think there. I'll take some phthalo blue, lots of magenta, a little white, and maybe a touch of cadmium red. Go for a nice warm purple. No, that's a bit dark, isn't it? Let's add some red to that. And a bit of white. There, that's better. I'm going to fill this in. Again, just the very same as we did earlier. Fill it all in. And then we add our highlights to this, you see. So, clean my brush again, the very same brush. I'll take a touch of black. Add touches of black into this. Just to make the colour slightly stronger as it comes forward, that's all. Only to add a bit of interest, really. There's no other reason for this. It's just to add a little bit of interest. Then I'll clean that brush again, and I'm going to start putting in my highlights again with this small pointy brush. Again, I'll take some Naples yellow, a little touch of magenta. It gives you a nice kind of a warm peachy colour, doesn't it? The trick with this I would say, and the advice I would give you, is always add plenty of pink into Naples yellow, because that will clash with the blue and go green. So make sure this is on the pinky side of the colour. And I'm just going to simply paint in this hill. Nice solid line. Again, clean the brush when it starts getting dirty. And you can see I'm just sort of swooshing the paint around, really. Creating little lines. Do you know those little lines that you get on these cliffs? Just creating some of those lines. Again, Naples yellow, magenta. This time I'm adding burnt sienna to the mix. So I'm going a more browny orange sort of a shade. I'm just going to pop some of that in along the bottom there, look. Little lines going up and down, nice and simple. I'm making this impressionistic. I'm not going into huge amounts of detail with this here, alright? Now, a little bit of white on the brush. I'm going to just brighten this up. The whole point of this section is just to make it look like a separate cliff in the distance. That's all I want to do. I'll go up here. Okay, Naples yellow, some white. Pop some of that in. There we go. Just like that. Wiggling the brush around. It's just a matter of creating different effects with your brush. Look, little scrapes, little lines, little jagged edges, all that kind of thing. Have a bit of fun. Now, I'll make a nice dark purple again. Blue, magenta. And I'm going to just add a touch of black maybe to that. I'm going to just start giving this a little touch of shadows. There's one. And perhaps, just go up here with another one, look. It probably looks like a bit of a mess, doesn't it? But this is only for the distance. So don't be too worried. I'm not too worried about making this thing look absolutely like a photograph. Not one bit. I don't care if this doesn't look like anything. I just want to fill the area in, off in the distance, just to make it look like there's something there. That's all, really. You know, that's the whole aim of the game for this painting, really, to make something look like something is there. Do you understand what I mean? And I suppose keeping it simple and just have a bit of fun with all of this. I know it probably doesn't look like much from where you're sitting, but once everything else goes in, this will disappear in the background. I'm going to be softening this in as well. It doesn't have to look exactly like a photograph. That's my motto for painting, really. I think if you want it to look like a photograph, then just take a photograph and hang a photograph. Now, soft brush, I'm just going to dab very gently on that, just to soften some of these out. You see now, it just disappears into the distance, doesn't it? Fine, you could just put a couple of marks in there. You don't have to go crazy with this. I'm moving on to my big brush. And let's go and fill all of these mountains in. I will start with the lighter one here. I'm going to go with, the colour I see is Naples yellow and a touch of burnt umber. Let's try this. And a bit of white perhaps. A bit of white in that. It's a very light colour, isn't it? It's a very yellowy white colour. Just there. So let's just fill this in Okay, like that. And I'll be working on top of all of these then later. Then we have one here which is, I think, I'm just going to use burnt sienna and Naples yellow. I want to get a nice warm colour for all of these. I'm going to go like this, in slightly, and then cut in front of that. It then softens into this one, doesn't it? Let's scrape it like this and soften it in. We're going to be using a lot of palette knife as well on this later. So this is really, for me now, the sort of just the filling in stage really. That's all I'm doing. Just covering the canvas. That's all my kind of lights done, I suppose you could say. Alright. Then I'll start doing the darker side. I'll just go a shade darker then. I'll just take some burnt sienna and perhaps a little magenta. A nice warm brown. Okay, that's a nice colour I think to go for with it as a base. And just bring it down. It's very sort of jaggedy, isn't it? Again, remember, this is not the finished kind of painting here. This is just filling in a base colour. That's all it is. Filling it in just to cover the white of the canvas. That's all I'm doing. Let's go again. Let's try more sienna, little bit of magenta. Let's try a touch of burnt umber in there as well. Cover this in. A nice thin coat, look, nice and thin. And you see, once we have that colour on then, we can then start creating shapes. So for example, I'm going to go up and do the lighter section on that, just very, very quickly now, alright? Very quickly. Take some Naples yellow and a little white. And I'm just going to kind of flick it in. Okay, I'm just going to flick it in like that. Then I'll do this one. And just flick those lines downwards. Then I'll take some burnt sienna and a little magenta and perhaps a touch of black. And what I'm going to do is just pop some kind of dark areas in here, flick them down like that, okay? It's just to create some little ridges, that's all it is. You know, a lot of this is about trying to create texture in a painting. That's where the palette knife comes in later. So what I'm doing here now is really just, I suppose, preparing for the palette knife, just to get my shape. So I know then where my darks are going to be. So I'm just filling it in with a brush like this, very loosely. And I then know later on with my palette knife where I'm going to be going. Alright. Next, let's get some burnt umber, lots of thick burnt umber, lots of magenta. And with that now, I want to darken this line here. And you can see I'm not copying the painting exactly, the photograph exactly. I don't want to copy it exactly, I want to make it my own, don't I? So I'm just going to go along and just pop these darks. And it's a very simple case of just grabbing some paint, let's say burnt umber, and flicking it down like this as you move, you see? Flick, 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 left and right, or up and down with the brush, flick it around. The real life comes into play once you start using the palette knife later. That's going to be fun, it's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope you stay tuned to watch that. That's going to be, you know, really eye-opening when you actually see everything come to life when the palette knife hits this now, later, you're really going to see everything come to life. And remember, I'm not trying to paint a photograph here, I'm just creating a nice little impression. That's all I want to do. A nice little impression of the scene. I'm not going to be painting every single rock exactly the same and all that kind of stuff. It's just a nice impression of the scene. That's what I want to create. So I have a little bit of texture there now, kind of going, you know, it's work in progress, I suppose. Come down here and put a little bit of shadow. A little bit of shadow on this one. There we go. Nice little shadow there. What you can do is also as well is if you take some mauve, okay, let's go for a deep mauve. If I mix some phthalo blue with some crimson and a touch of cadmium red, then take a touch of white. If you take a very rich kind of a mauve like that, okay, and you pop it into the shadows, you'll see the shadows almost kind of come to life, don't they? A little bit goes a long way. I think that's a great little idea of adding depth to your shadows. So if I got a little mauve colour, you see there, and if I pop a little bit of mauve colour in here, I think that instantly lifts the shadows, doesn't it? And you would never imagine that a shadow on a cliff would have a kind of a deep purple. But for some reason in a painting it seems to work. It seems to just add a little life to a painting. Now I'm just going to go up here and pop a little bit in there and a little bit there as well. Just to create a few little ridges on this. And I might pop a little bit of that colour up here as well, to suggest a little bit of shadow up behind those. So you can begin to see this taking shape and coming to life. Now I want to go up and just refine all of this area up here. I want to take some burnt sienna and burnt umber. And I just want to go up and make that a little bit sharper and crisper, let's say. It's very rocky up there, isn't it? Then maybe take a little bit of black, pop a little bit of black in here and there. Again, scraping. I find scraping is probably the best technique for this sort of a painting. Just take some black, pop it in and scrape. That gives you a nice little texture, doesn't it? To be honest, at this stage I'm hardly looking at the reference photograph. I'm just sort of making this my own, really. I like making things just going my own way. I don't want to be looking at the photograph every 2 seconds. So I'm just going to go my own way. I might just dab this, rough it up a little bit, just to help it soften in to the distance. Or scrape it or whatever. See? Then I will take some dark colour again. So let's go that dark purpley colour and go up and just refine some of these. Just coming out like that, bring it down. How are we looking so far with all of this? Not too bad. I'm going to finish this side with a palette knife. I'm going to go for a flat palette knife this time. I want to create a nice luminous colour in there. I'm going with burnt sienna and I hope you can see this okay. And I'm going to I need to get more magenta on my palette. Let's take a bit of magenta there. So, burnt sienna, little magenta, perhaps a little touch of cadmium red. And with that colour now, I'm going to first put that on. I'm going to just drag here and there, look. So you can see what I mean now, what I was saying earlier. You know, the palette knife will kind of cover a lot of this. Now the next thing I'm going to do is take some cadmium yellow. Let's get that and some cadmium red. So this is going to be the luminous orangey effect now that I'm going for in this. Let's take some of this lovely, you see this lovely rich orange I have on my palette knife, look. And let's go up here and just drag that little bits at a time through that burnt sienna, and that will really warm the colour. I'm taking Naples yellow, cadmium yellow, and I want to pop some of that through. And it's all just kind of warming it gently, bit by bit, especially just around the centre area. So you get a kind of a nice glow, I find, doing this. Drag it across. Now I'm hardly touching the canvas when I'm doing this with the palette knife. I'm allowing the canvas to sort of just drag the paint off of the palette knife. I'm just allowing it. I'm not pushing and scraping. I'm just holding a feather, okay? And I'm just very gently, look, allow the canvas just to catch the paint here and there and take it off. And that's probably the easiest way of creating this type of effect. Look, just different sections. Now you can go on edge as well if you like. You can take a palette knife and just go like this and create some ridges and stuff like that. Then I'll take some burnt sienna, perhaps, and some magenta. And maybe a touch of Naples yellow. All again with the palette knife. And just come down here and create little ridges here too, look. So you can see I'm practically going over a lot of what we did already, aren't I? Realistically. But what I'm then going to do is take my soft brush and just go over this. I'm going to drag it down very slightly, look. Creating a nice soft hill. I don't want to have lots of jagged rocks and all that kind of thing. I want the painting to be nice and soft and again impressionistic. So I don't want to be going into huge amounts of detail, creating lots of different rocks and cracks and all that kind of thing. I don't like doing that on a painting. I think something simple like this will do. It's just enough. So I'm going to take now some of that dark colour again and just add a bit of darkness into this area. Just to kind of separate them ever so slightly. I have a little bit of a black on my brush there. Tiny bit of black here and there, just to, again, touches of detail. Okay. Then I'll take some black, lots of black on my brush, and perhaps just give some impressions of cracks and that kind of stuff. Look, just wiggle the brush around here and there, bring it down. It all just adds to the feeling of a very rough and cracky surface, I think. Okay, go over here, bring it down again. Pop a few here and there. You can come over here and do the same thing. Look, just, I'm literally dabbing the brush around here and there just to suggest impressions of details really. And when you stand back, it will look like a lot of detail, but you know, it's just simply an impression of detail. You see, look, just little scrapes with the brush here and there. Now, I'm going to stop at that. Then I'm going to do the very same thing with some light colours. So I'm going to make first now a nice mauve again. Blue, magenta, and some white. And with that mauve, I am going to just pop some lights into the shadows as well, look. Scraping colours. All of these small marks will kind of add up in the end, you'll see. They will add up to create little soft highlights. And one last thing before I stop at part one. I'm going to take some light colour again. Cadmium yellow, cadmium red, and a touch of white. Okay? Again, a little bit more on the pinky side. And I might just start popping one or two lights in as well. I know this probably does not look like the photograph. It probably looks nothing like the photograph actually. But for me, it's again, it goes back to that impression that I want to create. That little bit of an impression. It all goes back to that. Take a bit of Naples yellow, go up here and just give a little hint of highlight, catching some of those rocks up there. You know, there's maybe one or two just showing their face to the sun. Maybe just one or two. Little dots of light. And I think I'm going to stop at that. I think that looks quite nice without overworking it. I don't want to overwork this painting. If I overwork this and I keep adding and adding and adding, I am going to ruin it, because it has happened many times. A little bit of Naples yellow and white over here. Again, just to reinforce. See these highlights? Just bring these highlights out. Clean the brush again. Go back in. Catch more. Little lines, little squiggly lines, look. And it really does look like little dots of light and highlight. Let's do a few up here, look. Let's catch a few. A couple of little squiggles with the brush. And we can do the same on this one up here. See? Just little dabs. Let the brush take off the colour onto the canvas. I'm going to stop at that, my friends. I'm calling this part one finished. So I want to just take my time and enjoy what I'm painting. I don't want to rush too fast into all of this. Take my time, there's no rush. You know, who said you have to rush at painting and get it finished first time? You can take as long as you like, really. Just enjoy what you're doing. Just take a bit of time. Now you can take your time with this. You can stop the video, you can pause the video, go back, do little bits at a time. It's up to you. You can see I just tend to dance around on the canvas a lot, don't I? I tend to kind of go in and just give little dabs of paint here and there, like this, you know, just popping in highlights, darks and all that. That's just the way I kind of paint. I'm very loose. I like to be loose with the painting. And there we go. I'm calling this done. Part one finished, my friends. Let me fix the camera here now. You can get a proper look. How's that? Well, I don't think that's bad at all, do you? So let me just turn the camera here now, so you can see me, and I can see you. Okay, there we are. Part 1 is finished. I hope you enjoyed it. That's quite nice now, even as it is. You can begin to see something coming to life on the canvas, and I tried to just kind of simplify it as much as I could without going into too much detail. But you can kind of see it's just about having fun and being loose with your brush. If you can try to be loose, not too confined and constricted to detail. Let me know what you think. I'll have part 2 coming very soon, and maybe a part 3. Take our time with the reflections in part 3. So let's make a nice little mini series out of this painting. Let's just take our time and enjoy it. I'll be back very soon, my friends, with part 2. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to my Patreons for your support. I sincerely appreciate that, my friends. I really do. And I will see you very soon. God bless. Happy painting.